morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone out there in the world. I am your host, Nathan Guerra, and this is the Zwift Community Live Weekly Wind Up. Welcome to the broadcast, and this is the new broadcast that we are running now that is all about highlighting what is going on this week and has been happening in the past week out on Zwift. So make sure to go grab your morning Joe. This is an early 4 a.m. start for us here in the CST of the States. And we're going to get right into it for what is happening out on Zwift this week, as well as some of the past highlights in the community. I want to welcome to the broadcast my partner in, I don't know, what are we going to say? Are we going to say crime here? Or what are we up to here? But from the Zwiftcast, I got Mr. Simon Schofield joining us here. Simon, welcome.
Yo, dude, how are you?
I'm doing good. Yo, dude. I was trying to think what needs to be my... Like, I don't have an intro for you yet. You always have the yo dude for me, for the American young kid, bringing him into the Zwiftcast. But, yeah, so we got an exciting one today. Lots going on. Obviously, tons happening in the world of Zwift with new features that recently got released in the past week or two. A couple of bugs to work out here or there to get it going, but definitely a few things that have been released that I'm excited to talk about this week. We'll get into that in just a second. What I definitely want to do, though, is let everybody know how they can interact with the broadcast today. This live show is all about bringing the community to the live interaction. So if you want to interact with the broadcast, it's the usual way. You go ahead and put any questions or comments that you have. You shoot them at Z Community Live either on Twitter, or you can also message us over on Facebook and during the broadcast, in the broadcast. So that comment right there is actually coming from the broadcast. I pulled it from right on over there, and we want you guys to interact directly with us so we can answer your questions or comments or anything that you do have about anything that we are chatting about here on the broadcast. All right, so first up, on our weekly wind up highlights for the week, we had group workouts actually launched last week, actually, and they were in a beta, and it was more of a testing phase. It seems like Zwift seems to do things this way. Hey, Simon, like they throw it out there in little bits. It isn't like a full-on release and see how it goes in the public.
Yeah, I rode one of these, Nathan, actually, and it was really good. And I was kind of surprised, but then not really, that they weren't pushing them harder. So, I mean, you can find these group workouts. They run as scheduled events, I think, in the usual Zwift events manner. But I don't think they've been promoted massively heavily as a finished feature yet. The one I rode, I have to say, was pretty flawless. I mean, I saw no problems with it. It was very enjoyable to ride. Psychologically, it was interesting because even though you're kind of rubber banded together with other riders, so you don't, it's impossible to get dropped. Just that whole feeling of being with other people does make you not want to quit on an interval. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird thing. I mean, if you do quit on the interval, you're not going to get dropped. Well, you are eventually if you can stop pedaling. But just being surrounded by other people who are working hard, it does give you just that boost to keep on pushing through those tough intervals.
Yeah, that's really interesting idea there. I get that in live streaming where. Like this past weekend, I was pushing on. We did a charity event thing with the guy Sombrero. We raised a ton of money for WBR. Actually, it was really awesome. $1,430 to WBR through live streaming. But that live streaming experience of the witness of other individuals is what always gave me that. Yeah. It almost sounds similar, where you have other individuals around you, and because they're with you, it's like the group ride thing. Why do you go to the group ride? Because you're with those other people pushing you. But at the same time, you can see all the waters that everyone's trying to hold together. So it's more of a camaraderie thing almost there, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it is. I mean, the thing is, interval work is by its nature solitary, isn't it? When you suffer, you generally suffer alone. I mean, pre-Zwift, when we all used to do trainer road, it was you and those blocky graphics and the interval, and it was your pain and it was your suffering and it was your counting down those last 30 seconds when you were really, really stretched out. It's interval work and training work and workout work. It's always been quite solitary. So this to me is a really, really, really big development. I think it could completely change training. Now, that psychological effect, whether that's going to last, when you do your 10th or 100th group workout, I don't know. And I've only done one. But there was a definite effect of being surrounded by other people and knowing they were suffering. Definitely.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be the same kind of community building groups around this. Have you seen with group rides, right? You have like the ZZRC, you've got SZR, you've got there's the Icelandic. There's all these different, the type 1 or type 2, type 2. Is it type 1, type 2? Oh man, I'm getting it wrong now. But for the Diabetes Foundation and all the different group rides that are forming out there that happen over time now, I think we might start to see something along those lines and maybe around coaches. And so speaking of coaches, with group rides, group workouts that have been launched now, we are aiming to use it this week with our Coach Hendy ride. And here's a little video what that's all about. And 11 World Cup gold medals, Commonwealth Games champion, Coach Hendy. How you doing today, Coach Hendy?
Doing very well, mate. A little bit jet lagged, but I'm good. Looking forward to it.
Right.
If they can design a program where you're actually involved in one workout together and keep everyone together somehow, then I can only see it being fantastic, because what the old saying is, misery loves company. So you finish your workout, you finish your effort, and you get a great chance to have a chat to your mates during the recovery period. You can complain, holy smokes, that was hard. Or, how you doing, mate? Yeah, I'm doing great. That was good. Can't wait. Righto. Yeah, we've got 5 minutes to the next one. Let's get ready. So it's a communal thing. And yeah, like I always say, misery loves company. You hate to be the only one suffering.
So that is the group workouts with Coach Hendy, Workout Wednesdays. Workout Wednesdays is what that is. So got to see a little bit of what we're up to there with Coach Hendy. It's been a lot of fun. Definitely type 2 kind of fun there, hanging out with Hendy. He's been making me suffer quite a bit. Simon, have you been able to check out any of the Coach Hendy rides? And I think on top of that question, I really think that this is going to be a next step with Zwift and coaches and how they can work together.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things to say there, Nathan. He's so right, isn't he? And that was the point we were just making before you played that little insert. Misery loves company, and he's just, that completely sums it up. But what we saw there was kind of next level. So, okay, group workouts, you're working out together with a bunch of people, and they're all going through the same kind of misery that you're going through, and you can see them on the screen, and you stay attached to them by this really clever rubber band that Zwift has introduced. And I do wonder, actually, whether this rubber band could also be applied to group rides and solve at a stroke the problem of flyers off the front. But that's another story. That is completely another story. So you've got the group workouts. You're in that pack. Everyone's working hard. But then the Coach Hendy thing, or other coaches, that's a completely new level layered on top of that, because you've got a guy or a girl who really knows what they're talking about, coaching you and tutoring you and mentoring you and encouraging you through those intervals, and probably explaining why this interval hurts and why it's a good thing to do and what kind of fitness is going to benefit from it. So that, the group workouts are relatively new, and it's going to take a little while, I think, for the community to get used to those. But then there's this next level, this next layer of expert coaching that's going to be layered on top of group workouts. I think it's an amazing development. And it's a much overused phrase, but I do think it's going to be a game changer. I really do. I'm
totally with you on the game changer thing there, because you talked about the rubber band effect of the group. but I think there's also that like banding together effect that you're going to start seeing then around coaches. You already see it with CIS, you know, with David Lipscomb. You're starting to see it a little bit with the Hendy thing. When I was coaching a little bit more, I had that going on where there was this, like, you get these followings with people who are like, whoa, this is a great resource. And Zwift just becomes this glue that brings everybody together, this space that brings them all together for that. And this is a great new feature that's going to do that. I actually have a question coming through real quick here before we head on to our next feature. Let's do a few social media interactions here real quickly. Andres Beck here says, good morning from Hungary. Good to have you here from Hungary. Any words about route expansion in October? I think we had a couple hints about that from Steve from marketing. Simon, I think you have more information maybe than I do.
I might do, but I don't know how much I can say. I tell you what, I didn't include it in the Zwiftcast because we were talking about something else. We were talking about logo gate to Steve. But I did ask him the direct question, when's it going to be? And he did give me a direct answer, and he said 2 weeks, and that was what, 3 or 4 days ago. So we could be only 10 days away from the new route or route.
You heard it here first from Simon. Exclusive.
Well, that's via Steve. That's via Steve Beckett. I mean, he does know about these things, but you know, as we always say, he's not the guy who pushes the button. The guy who pushes the button and who has the final decision is John Mayfield, and we know that John never releases anything until he is 100% happy. So, I think 10 days, you know, it could be possible. But even if it's not 10 days, I do think it's going to be pretty shortly after that. I'm going to stake my reputation on definitely before the end of October.
Nice. And I'll go with that too. So, and one other question before we move on here. I do believe we have our first guest on. I don't want them to be holding off for too long, but missed you at the Paris event. What did you think of the format of the event, with qualifying followed by 3 stages? And we actually talked about this a little bit in the Zwiftcast, in this last Zwiftcast, about different race formats. And we're actually going to be featuring a new race format on the program today, which we're really excited about. But I think it's great, actually. I think elimination type races or races with points that build up over time that are shorter is actually the way to move forward with especially events that are broadcast for an audience. I think it's a great way to do to make more action and not just like one time around kind of a thing. I think that that's kind of a cool idea. And I think that also one of our features today is the eCrit in Australia as well. And they did it as well with the Preems. So, you know, adding a couple more things throughout the race, I think, is definitely a great idea. And that was from Keith Leonard. Keith Leonard brought that in.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great point. I unfortunately missed the Paris event because I was literally on a plane going to the eCrit event in Melbourne, and then I was away in Australia doing some other stuff for Zwiftcast over the next kind of 10 days. So actually, the evening before last, I did catch up with the CVR. I watched it on their website. They've got it's permanently available there as an archive feature. And I watched it with the 3 different formats. I have to say, I was knocked out by it. I mean, I do think it is absolutely the way to go. More exciting formats, more of the formats, as you say, points that are building up. I mean, the one thing with the third race in the CVR thing was it was a little bit of a dead rubber because the first 2 results have been so decisive. And there was one racer, Bibby, who was like head and shoulders, I think, above, not head and shoulders, that's unfair. He was quite a long way above the rest, and he was not going to lose that last race unless something really, really, really terrible happened. So, but I think we'll see these formats tweaked continuously by race organisers until we start to find the ones that are going to hit home and provide the best viewing experience for people watching. I mean, it's early days, Nathan. It's super early days in this.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely am super excited about all the new race formats on the way. But we do have our first guest coming in here, and here is a little bit of a highlight as to why we're going to want to be talking to him. So this is an exciting moment from over in the E-Crit with Jasper and Wes.
But Pat Shaw has got 400 meters to go, but he's only got 4 seconds. Aaron Dunn is coming back.
It looks like Aaron Dunn is coming back. This is really going to hurt. Look at Dunn. Look at the pain on the face. Come on, Dunn.
2 seconds.
Down. Looks like over the top.
No, he's going to roll around. But Ciano's not done.
Oh my God, what a finish. What a finish. What a finale.
Woo! Oh my goodness,
That was an awesome finish.
Dunn takes the win, Ciano second place, and Pat Shaw third. What a display from all the riders tonight. Great show. Anthony Ciano in on a walk. Dunn versus Ciano. But
And we got it playing again, but that was the Australian E-Crit finish sprint. And we actually have with us the Australian E-Crit champion, Mr. Aaron Dunn himself. We just got to get his audio unmuted though. Sorry about that, Aaron. Give me 1 second here, and there we go. And let's go ahead and bring on in Aaron Dunn. Welcome to the program, Aaron. Thanks so much for joining us. And that was an amazing sprint finish at the end of the Australian E-Crit there. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Nathan. It's good to be with you guys tonight.
Yeah, tonight. Yeah, it's good evening to you over there as it's 4 a.m. over here in the States. We've got Simon all the way over in the UK, and I think it's about 10 a.m. or so. And you got an 8:20 p.m. going on over there. So late, not super late night, but thanks a lot for jumping in with us here. So a couple of things that we definitely want to go over about this. I mean, that winning move is amazing. We'll go into the winning move. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But first off, what was the E-Crit, right? I think there might be some people watching like, what exactly did I just see? The E-Crit was 22 races, I believe it was total. At least you completed 22 races. I noticed all of them, which is amazing. You and only one other person completed all 22. You were the only one in the East, I believe, and there was one other in the West. That's absolutely amazing. And first of all, like, 22 races, what kind of commitment did that take to make that happen in your life? Or was it kind of a really good timing? Because that's also a Zwift thing where it's like, oh, you know, the KCU is always at a perfect time for me. Bam, I'm going to jump in for it. Or was it like, we got to kind of jump through some hoops here to make this happen?
I definitely had to jump through hoops. I'm a father of 3 at the moment, and they are 6, 4, and 2. And the E-Crit race happens at 7 p.m. Of an evening, and that is about bedtime, brush teeth, books, milk for those type of age kids. So I had to get permission off the boss, and to get that for 22 weeks was a big ask, but it was a great series to be a part of, and just to be able to have an hour Smash Fest every Tuesday at Threshold is great for the training.
Yeah, definitely. Were you actually, so for the training then, were you actually training for the E-Crit, or was the E-Crit training for other things? Or how did you go about that? Was you like super focused, full on rest, I'm going to win these races as much as I possibly can? Or was it also a part of another training program then?
Not really. The main reason I got into cycling was to lose weight in the beginning, and the reason I chose cycling was because I'm very competitive and I do like to win. I was the early adapter. I did all 22 weeks, and I won the first 2 races of the E-Crit, but I did not win another race until the finale. I definitely finished between 2nd and 5th nearly every week, but didn't win another one till that live finale. So I went into that race thinking, I'm probably not going to win this. It'd be, I know I'm going to be competitive, but if Pat Shaw gets away, I'm not going to be able to chase him down. He's too strong. And if it comes to a all-out sprint, there's probably a couple other guys that are faster than me in the finish.
Yeah, I remember Simon actually, you guys had a little conversation about that, about who the favorites would be prior to the race. And you were mentioning a few others, and there was definitely, I would say, some humble moments there of like, I don't think I'm going to be the one. Simon, you remember that?
I remember it well, but I mean, the guy who was chasing your tail, Aaron, was, you know, a kind of rank outsider, really. The Zwift kid. What's he called? Anthony Guerra. He got in on a wild card. Did he finish second or third? I can't quite remember.
He came in second. He came in second.
Yeah, he did come in second, and he was close. And until the results popped up on the screen, I wasn't quite sure if I'd got it or not. But you saw that little pause for a second, wait for that live result to come up, and then I was cheering.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
Did you know,
that even Jesper it was. Oh, go ahead, Simon. Go ahead, Simon. Did
you know he was behind you, Aaron? Did you know he was coming up fast? I mean, did you have enough time and energy to check out who was on your butt?
Yes, I did. For the first, that last effort went for about a minute, and I let Pat Shaw go because I knew when he went, that was going to be too long for me. So I sat in the pack as long as I could, and it was a minute effort. And for about the first 45 seconds of that effort, I was not looking at my screen. I had my head down, going as hard as I could, and I looked up with it. I didn't know how long was to go, but I looked up thinking I cannot push any longer. And I looked up and I saw that I'd closed the gap to Pat and just kept pushing as hard as I could. And that's when I saw the Zwift kid on my wheel and thought, oh, you just got to push because you'll regret it if you don't afterwards.
What a finish there. I mean, and I know those moments in racing on Zwift or even in road races, I mean, where it's like, is there anything extra left? And it just pushes you to that extra, that little bit more that you don't believe is there even. You don't even believe that there's anything left, but it's just pure determination at that point a lot of times in those races. I mean, and there's also a big check at the end of the day. I think that might have been a little bit of motivation there too. Hey, Aaron?
Oh, definitely. And I was lucky that my teammate Luke Ockerby decided that he was going to target the sprint jersey because he's a very, very fast finisher and has raced at least continental level and won races. He's finished second twice in the National Elite Omnium as well. So pretty fast guy. And I did try and get him on the first one and just see where my legs were at in the first sprint, and then I finished second. And I thought, I'll let him go for that, and I might just save my legs for the finish. But it did work out that I did finish second, and third in that. But that was just trying to make sure I was towards the front of the pack to roll over the top, because we did see a couple of attacks out of those sprint points. And that's something that happens in real life racing as well. When there's a preem, people will sit in for the preem, but towards the front, and then once everyone's had their sprint, they'll take off, and that was happening. So yeah, ended up with a bit of money out of that as well, which was good.
So Ockerby and you, had you had a conversation prior? Was it like, all right, or was it kind of just figure it out as it was racing?
It was figure it out while we were racing, because once the prize money got announced, it was like, we were just worried about ourselves a little bit more.
Yeah, the tactics go out the window just a tad there. Okay, real quick, another video I want to show here real quick. This is a nice one here about midway through the race, or going on, I think it's 2 laps to go or so.
He never runs out of energy. That guy is a machine. And done, ready for the final sprint. He's got to be the favorite right now, as composed as he looks.
Yep. He does, and Aaron Dunn, quick little, before we get into this finale, has lost 40 kilos since he started cycling, so an inspirational story.
40?
110 down to 70 kilos. Incredible.
40 kilos. Is that right? 40 kilos, Wes just said?
Got those legs
not quite 40, but around 35.
Phew, I mean, wow. That's amazing. Is that all through Zwift riding and other things outside and other coaching, or what? I mean, what do you give the credit to there?
Well, just riding in general. played a lot of football and sport as a kid up until the age of 19, and pretty much stuffed my knee and shoulder, and then spent my 20s eating food, McDonald's, KFC, you know, all the big ones, and then just thought I need to start doing something about my health and fitness and my body. And because I'm so competitive, I chose cycling, and it's something that's easy on your knees and on your body. And started off in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales about 7 or 8 years ago, and yeah, jumped on a bike and rocked up to some race up there with a little 12-year-old Caleb Ewan, tearing everyone up.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You were racing with Caleb as well. That's pretty cool. So that's pretty inspirational, though. I mean,
Nathan, can I just ask you a question?
Go ahead, Simon. Yeah, Simon, chime in anytime, man. Chime in anytime.
35 kilos, Aaron. That is an immense amount of weight to lose. Over how long a period? And I mean, clearly you started doing exercise, but did you completely change your diet as well?
Yeah, change my diet. You know, I still like my food, and I still snack out a little bit too much. But yeah, cycling, change of diet, and just got to the point where I was too big. I was 110 kilos, and when you start to race and with that competitiveness, it just, you know, weight matters a lot. So all of a sudden you want to win that race, you need to drop some more kilos. So that's just been a big motivation. And I think this year alone, or probably in the last 12 months since I've gotten on Zwift, I think I've dropped from when in the last 12 months, probably another 7 or 8 kilos.
Wow.
And since the start of the E-Crit, I've improved my FTP by about 35 watts.
Wow.
So probably like a 10% increase or something, man. That sounds huge.
So with the weight coming down and the watts going up, that's just been amazing for my cycling.
Well, 22 races, right? Let's take a look at this just real quick, just 1 second. I want to show exactly what this looked like for the competition here. I'm just heading over to zwiftpower.com here real quick here. You guys can see my desktop, my messy desktop. But we got, you know, Aaron Dunn here, 384 points is what got him in with 22 races. When you're doing that much racing out on Zwift, week in and week out, I think that is a testament right there, it seems like, to at the beginning of it, like it sounds like at the beginning of the series, the notion of winning the final might not have been there as much with that, but then with that drop in the weight and increase in FTP, it sets you up. 22 races sets you up to go and win the final. That's amazing.
Yep.
Simon, you had something to chime in there, I think?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Aaron, really. I mean, it sounds to me, the interesting thing about when people lose an absolute ton of weight is sometimes the kind of victory over that is temporary and it can creep back on. And you often see people who have been big and then have lost a lot of weight, it can go back on. But it sounds to me as though your kind of victory is permanent. You'll continue to lose weight. Do you think you've changed on a permanent basis now, and that weight will never go back on?
I definitely, I want to keep cycling as long as I can, and I don't want to go back to where I was. I was talking about this the other day with my wife. Not many people lose weight after they get married. Been married for 10 years, and I'm 35 kilos lighter. So
that's awesome. That is so great. That is so great. All right, one more thing I want to go into here for sure is Wendy Superfan. Jesper kept on talking about Wendy Superfan being next to you, and there was a WP Taz little picture there that was George. So who is Wendy Superfan, first of all, because she was a major part of the broadcast, and also a little bit of WP Taz information would be great too for those of you out there wondering who the local team is and stuff.
Wendy Superfan, I actually don't know her that well, but she's a northwest coast Tasmania, so she's about 3 hours from where I live, but she is involved in local cycling and just one of those people that obviously don't cycle herself but gets along and helps marshal and does sign on and does everything at the local level of cycling, and helps bring these young juniors up through, because without people that are willing to give up their time for local races, then they don't happen, and people don't get to race, and they don't then get to race at different levels. So yeah, that's where she's at. She just loves cycling, loves sport, and
yeah, it was really cool to see her there next to you, cheering you on with that WP Taz there. And it seems WP Taz then is a pretty popular group of racers then in the area. She's there just to cheer you guys on. So what's that group all about? And you're a part of that, it seems like.
It's mainly based out of a group in Launceston with Wes and Bernie and Nadsy. It's just a group of guys that we train over the summer months when guys are back in town and not overseas racing. We hook up, do training rides, and just let people know what we're doing, and it's just a group of guys that don't necessarily race together at any in real life level, but love training together, and with the formation of Zwift, we thought we all like doing trainer work, so let's hook up a team on Zwift and translate what we do in real life onto the Zwift platform.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's super cool. And seeing that you had teammates there kind of working together at the final, that was obvious. And it was obvious you guys were showing up for the eCrit virtual races. That was really obvious. WP Taz was on the microphone a lot, coming from Wes and Jesper. I am seeing a guy, Brad Dyson, jumping into the social medias here. I'm going to use him as an example here. Dunny is what he is saying over at the social medias. They're one of your buddies, it looks like. If you do have any questions for any of our guests or me or Simon, make sure to bring them on through. Little comment there from Johnny saying, Aaron Dunn, father of 3 at the moment. Nathan Guerra, watch out. He's going to try and break the Guerra 5 record. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that there, Johnny Noblet. And then now that Simon and Jesper have made it to Melbourne, when are you going to see Nathan? We'll see what we can do. People are already trying to get me over there. That was actually a conversation earlier today. We'll see if I can make it over, you guys. But if you want to interact with the broadcast, you can tweet at ZCommunityLive, at ZCommunityLive, or bring in your comments over at the Facebook feed right now. So any Q&As that want to bring on through, you can for Aaron. But one last little clip we definitely want to check out here is the finishing here for the last time. We'll take a look real quick here. During this sprint here, going into it, were you lining up? You talked about the last 35 seconds or so, but what was the tactic for the last? Was everybody just chill is what I'm getting at? Was everybody kind of just chill, doing nothing much during that last 2 laps or so? Because it was like a sprint preem, right? And then did everybody just kind of wait for the finish, or were there like attacks going off here and there? And were you able to kind of settle in and then just bunch sprint it? Or was it just a full on ramp up for like a whole lap?
So after the last preem, so that was 2 laps to go, Pat Shaw got away off the front. We had to chase for the whole next lap to catch him. So I caught him under the start-finish banner with 1 lap to go. And at that stage, I'd burn a lot of bickies just closing the gap to him, thinking I'll get to him, sit on. If the rest catch up, that's fine. They're going to have to burn the bickies to close the gap as well. So then the group reformed, and that last lap had quite a lull about it. probably back under the 300 watts for me, which at that stage I'm thinking this is good. I'm recovering. I'm getting ready to have a sprint, which was good for me.
Yeah, so Shaw made everybody put the afterburners on and went for it early. Didn't want the sprint finish, it sounds like, and then it ended up with that sprint finish. So this is a perfect question coming in as we transition here, coming from Keith Leonard. He says, Aaron, what is Aaron's next Zwift challenge or racing challenge on Zwift CVR, or what's going on? What's next? Yeah, it's a great question. That was exactly what we're looking at running a show here. What's up next, Aaron? Australia, you guys are heading into summer, but you guys, your seasons are all different from ours, it seems like. I'm not sure how they work exactly, but what's next in racing for you in real life, as well as maybe some Zwift stuff?
So coming up at the start of November, we've got the Tour of Tasmania, which is pretty much the biggest race on our national calendar. This will be my first race at that level as a 36-year-old. I've raced state open, A grade, but this is my first race with guys that are racing pro continental level, and I put that down to the training I've done over winter on Zwift, so which is good. And so that's my next in real life race that's coming up, which is a 5-day tour. Wow. So that will be good.
Awesome. You're gonna do some Zwift racing between now and then, so we can watch out for you.
I did 2 races today. I did the European one and a WBR one lapper.
So keeping it going in the training, keeping it a part of training. That's awesome. Very, very cool. So yeah, we look forward to watching you out in there. Hopefully we can get some more coverage around the times. I think you're racing probably around the same times that the E-crits are going on, I would assume, when they were going on. So we'll try and get some more coverage out there and watch out for you out there. Thanks a lot for jumping in with us today. One more question looks like from Ben Grove, actually. And he is saying, oh, this is a good one on the controversies that come through. With all the weight loss, has heard the wrath of Zwift community on weight doping at all? That's actually a great question, because there is a lot of controversy that does come through. And was there anything, because I mean, early on in the races, we were getting a little bit here and there. So Ben, that's a great question, actually. And as a race organizer, Bren is a race organizer too. So was there any controversy around things?
I actually haven't had any leveled at me, which was good. I got Zada approved pretty early after I did a race up the mountain, which put that 20-minute power over the 5 watts a kilo. So my FTP is only just over 5 watts a kilo. So I went out and did one in real life and sent all my data off to the Zada guys and got approved. But I think being a part of a local team in Wolfpack Tas, like, we all know each other. We're pretty quick to pull each other up if we suspect anything that's a little bit sus. We want to keep it legit. So I'm sure Nadsy or Wes would be hounding me if all of a sudden I was 62 kilos and my power was up another 50 watts.
Yeah, for sure. I would think since you do know those guys, it's a little bit of a checker there, a little bit of a checker for sure. I can see that. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I really, really appreciate it. And congratulations on a huge win at the E-Crit. We look forward to seeing you out on Zwift, as well as in, I want to see how things go in December for sure. That is a huge step to be losing 35 kilos and find yourself racing in a continental 1-2 pro type situation. So congratulations, Aaron, on the win, as well as the working your ways up into the cycling.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll roll out with this is Aaron winning the $1,000 at the end of the Australian E-Crit. So great to have Aaron on, and thank you so much for the time there, buddy. Simon, what an amazing story with Aaron Dunn. I mean, really, like the the accomplishment in the E-Crit, but also the longevity of what has been changed in his life. You know what I mean? I mean, that is a hugely life-changing.
Well, 35 kilos is just such a large amount of weight to lose. And, you know, I don't know if he made it sound easy, but he just said, well, I just decided to do it. But I mean, that's just the first step, isn't it? I mean, to lose that, not only to lose that amount of weight. I mean, he was clearly a bit of an athlete in his younger days. And I do think, you know, genetics play a large part, don't they, in performance? You know, the old saying goes, if you want to be a good cyclist or if you want to be a good athlete, first of all, choose your parents. You know, because genetics is incredible, and he's clearly a natural athlete. But you know, even natural athletes get fat, and he clearly was, you know, clearly a big guy. So to lose that amount of weight and then be so competitive, and then be so disciplined as to keep all the weight off. I mean, I think the two things probably hugely go together, don't they? If you start winning races and you look a bit better and you're not feeling sluggish and the scales are telling you a nicer story, all of those things, they're like a kind of virtuous circle, aren't they? They help to keep the motivation, to keep the weight off. But I'm in massive admiration of people who lose that amount of weight, because it's not easy to do.
Yeah, I've just decided to do it. Just decided to lose 35 kilos. No big deal. Yeah. No big deal. It's just done. There you go. Again, if anybody does want to interact and you are over at Twitch or you're on Mixer, make sure to tweet at us at Z Community Live. That's the easiest way for us to interact with all the different places that we are live right now. We are also live on YouTube as well, and you can also always catch the VODs for this, as I'm assuming the Americas are probably going to be catching the VOD of this. So speaking of racing, what's up on Zwift Community Live this week? We do have a lot of racing coming at you. Racing focuses are going to be happening on Tuesday and Thursday with Ian Anderson. That is happening at 5 and 5:15 a.m. CST Central Standard Time, and that is 11 and 11:15 for those of you over in the UK. Everywhere else in the world, you're going to have to figure it off of those times that I just gave you. And then on top of that, our race coverages are going to be the usual KISS EU Europe races on Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. CST, and that is 8 p.m. UK time. But there's a new series on the rise right now that's getting some huge attention, actually. Some of the largest numbers that we've seen in quite a while. And that is actually the SCR series. And we actually have a great little highlight here of not an up-and-comer in the world of racing. We've seen him for a while, but somebody who's jumped back in to the world of Zwift racing just recently. And this is from last week's SCR race. Coming into the finish line pretty quickly here, and I'm going to have, this is it right here from what I'm being told. Boniface now 10.1 watts per kilogram now on the front end of this race, but 40 has gone from way out as well. Boniface now 10.0 watts per kilogram. Going to be able to hold on to it, it looks like, here to the line. I'm being told this was the last lap. Well, I was incorrect. It was not. One more to go. Brett Boniface put all of his chips on the table and is going to be your winner today, it looks like, followed by David. Wait, WBR Davis! Oh my goodness, out of nowhere. He almost nipped it at the line, but it was Boniface, I believe, across line, followed by Davis. We're going to have to wait for the official results, but I believe Boniface was rewarded for his effort on the front, but Davis from the pack there with just coming into the finish line. That is, and we're going to need to mute that. And that is actually Brett Boniface taking the W in race number 3 in the SCR series, in the fall series. It's actually a 15 weeks of racing from September 13th through December 20th, every Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. UK time, BST. And the best of your 12 races will count. And they've actually put together a great sponsorship package for those who are in Sweden. Actually, they can only mail to Sweden, but it is put together by Cycloteket. actually, and that is with SCR, and they are giving away some merchandise, actually, it looks like, in the RCR Autumn Race Series, actually. So if you are from Sweden, you can take advantage of that. Pretty cool that race organizers are doing such a great job with this. And Brett Boniface currently leading, Simon, that series, but I think... you know, let's take a quick little look at the, I think there's somebody else who might actually have something to say about Brett Boniface up and coming. The current series leader, Mr. Kim Little there he is sprinting at the CVR World Cup, and he actually took the W the week before in the series. And the current standings then between these two, and this is going to be a slugfest because Kim Little and Brett Boniface, and then we've got 40 as well in there. This is the current standings. Kim Little there was 60 points with 3 races though, and so he's done 3. Brett Boniface there out of Canada with 2 from Team ODZ. Kim Little representing Team Experimental. Then 40 unattached there. Always a strong rider to be watching out for, coming up also in 3rd place. So that is for the A categories, but there are B category riders, Peter Hicks, as well as Tony Axelson, and then Bo Dirtle. And then we do have C, Rickard Johansson, Frederick Ornlid, and Dennis Weissman. And then in the D category, it is going to be Donald Ogdonovan, Peter Janrad, and then it looks like Jan Anderson. Are there any women participants? We do have Mel Avery here under the women, it looks like, as well. But there's the overalls. For the teams, there's also, you can see over at zwiftpower.com, all the different rankings. Make sure to head on over there. But Simon, that's an interesting topic I would like to maybe chat a little bit about here with the SCR series. What do you think about, you know, bringing in sponsors? Money changes things. I've heard you say that before. Sponsorships change things. But, you know, if it's a random giveaway, you know, to people who are participate. What's your thoughts on that, Simon?
Well, I guess it does raise the stakes, doesn't it? It does raise the stakes, and there's a pretty decent trainer there. That's but how does that work? Is that a random giveaway to, excuse me, all participants, or is that the winner of the series gets the trainer? How does it work?
So from what I'm seeing, and we will have Martin on next week, I believe. Martin is going to be joining us next week. He is the race director for SCR, and it looks like it is going to be giveaways at random for those who participate out of Sweden in the series, actually. So it's just for kudos for the race winning, and then it is, you know, random. I think the random giveaway that way of doing it virtually is pretty safe because there's nobody can rig anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if the winner gets the trainer, then obviously the stakes get higher and the temptation to massage performance or, you know, tinker with weight or all of those things that we know about is definitely there. But if it's a random giveaway, and if you can, I don't know what the exact rules are, but say you complete 80% of the series and then you are entitled to be in with a chance of winning some of those good prizes, then I think what that does is encourage participation, and it encourages regularity, and it encourages consistency, and for people to enter these series on a regular basis. I mean, the thing with the race series is, and Aaron mentioned it there, particularly with the E-Crit with 22 rounds, but the thing with any race series is it's a big commitment, isn't it? It's a big commitment to time. But I don't know, Nathan, you're closer to the race scene than I am. Obviously, I keep a close eye on it, but it seems to me that these race series are getting more and more and more popular. Certainly, Chris Ahern's work with the Zwift Masters Group, that's always been a series format, and that's got a huge and very dedicated and very committed following. So we were talking earlier about formats. I do think a series is something quite special, both for participants and for organisers, and actually as a spectacle for viewers, because you can start to follow your favourite racers and see how they stack up over the whole course of the series. Really interesting development. Is it relatively new to see so many series?
You know, last winter we had maybe 4, maybe 5 series or so, and SCR was one of them. This is the largest participation I've seen in a series up front, though. 450 people in the last one, right sitting at the start line. That's huge. That is a huge amount in September. to be having that many people showing up is a gigantic race. And so I think there is some motivation out there for participating in something bigger than a one-off race, and being able to see yourself on the standings, working your way through the standings. Who's around you in the standings? Who are you racing then? That makes it interesting during the race too, is that you can see, oh, I got to follow that guy or that girl because they are the ones who I'm competing with in the series for the points right now, just like in a real life point series situation too. So definitely.
I guess the numbers speak for themselves in terms of how popular these events are. I mean, 450 in September is huge. Imagine that in January. I mean, that could easily be double in January if you start a race series in January.
Yeah, that's numbers that's middle winter numbers last year. That's middle winter's numbers last year for the racing scene so it's gigantic and it's huge. And I think most of the people who are going to be committed winter Zwifters are not even on the platform yet. Week after week, I go to zwiftpower.com and there's a new name, has no past races, no idea who they are. And I'm like, okay, new racer at the front. Great. This is awesome. Let's go. Who is this person? And and it's exciting too, because I was thinking about this, at the pointy end of the races, we got, the Kim Littles, the Tim Cartwrights, the Brett Boniface, and to see a few more start to mix it up with that elite crowd a little bit too, and start to push the edge of that A group is pretty cool for me as a commentator as well. Start to see some things mixing up a little bit. So I really enjoy that.
Are we still seeing in the race series, Nathan? Are we still seeing that? I mean, I still think the most intense competition is sometimes found in the C groups, because we all know what happens in C races. People put themselves into C when, maybe quite a few of them ought to be thinking about really being in B. And that has always made those C categories, to me, intensely competitive. I mean, are people a bit more realistic when they enter a series about how to categorize themselves?
Well, I think the series works it out for them though too.
Yeah.
But what's great about the SCR series is that they keep really good track of that, and they upgrade people. And because it's a mass start race, you can actually see where you should be because you start amongst everyone, and then you end up with all these Bs and you're like, oh, I should be there. Right. So, and I really like how KISS does it too, where they separate things out and you have, a gap between them so that they're not interfering with each other. But at the same time, you also have the benefit in an SCR race, so that they both have their benefits, right? They're separated and you don't have any mixing and people can't hang on the A's, and then you're just racing against those in the B's or the C's or the D's or whatever it is. But when they're all mixed and it's a mass start, that's nice too, because you end up seeing, oh, I can race amongst these B's. And actually, you don't end up maybe holding back as much because you're just drafting in with those who are around you in the C category. You push it with the B's, try and hang on with them, or you push them with the A's and try and hang on with them. And then you can see, oh, I just put out over 4 watts per kilogram. Looks like I'm an A because you are racing amongst them for the entirety of the race. So that's a really great way, I think, to get that going. And everybody gets an upgrade. The classic Oprah meme that we've had now. You get an upgrade, and you get an upgrade, and you get an upgrade. Everybody gets an upgrade is definitely something we see in the C and B categories. And they tend to be very intense then. I think for some of those who are like, who is this guy in my category that's not supposed to be there, maybe? That's always a lot of fun.
It does make you realize, doesn't it, when you see how much kind of admin and regulation and separating out and all this kind of upgrading stuff, it does make you realize how much work the race organizers put into these things.
Huge amount of work, actually. And if it's going to be well run, and actually there was a comments, there's all this stuff going on in a few of the racer groups, and a lot of it's always that going into winter and fall, is this real? Is this not real? Expectations around competitive ladder type racing. And I'm like, you guys, it's still quick play. It's still, it's still kind of what's your expectation around racing right now? Maybe a little bit too much, until we can get more verification. But speaking of all of the different work that goes in, there's actually a new race out there on the dock with a new race format that's on our feature list here that we should probably jump right on into, as we've been live for almost an hour now. Holy cow, we get to chatting, Simon. We can't stop, it seems like. But there's actually a new one called the Chop that actually just finished their Monday, and on their Monday race, that's 18:15 AEST. What time is that for you guys? I think that's going to be like, I don't know, 10:15 a.m. maybe for UK, and then maybe a 9:15 a.m. UK. Anyways, they figure it out in Australian time. Chasing Categories handicap race. It's called the Chop, and the whole idea around this race is to allow categories to start ahead of each other. So the D's start first, then the C's about, I think it's like 3 minutes later. Well, we'll let the race organizer let us know how it's all going to work. We actually have the race organizer with us, Ben Gove here, the Chop race director. It's a great idea, actually. I actually raced it once already, and that's actually how I found out about it. Is I jumped into it, and Ben was like, "Oh, look, Nathan raced it, and cool," and contacted me, and I really enjoyed it because my enjoyment of this race was that I'm working amongst a group of people to go after a common objective in almost a team time trial like way, but it's more of like team time trials have to be really organized. You get all your team together and you plan it out 2 weeks ahead, but this is like just jump into the A's or B's or whatever you're in and try and catch or hold off whoever's chasing. But we'll let Ben go on about it. Ben Grove is here, and the Chop race director. Welcome to the broadcast, Ben. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Nathan. Yourself?
I'm doing good. We're really glad to have you here, and it sounds like the race went really well today. Did you just get done racing the Chop?
Look, so the Chop race finished about an hour ago tonight.
Okay.
I unfortunately didn't do it. I'm down with a chest infection, if you can hear. But yeah, look, it's been building up each week. We're starting to get some numbers up there in the sort of 40, 50s. We've had a 70 week. And it's just finding that balance at the moment. You know, we're still working on the sort of categories, the splits, you know, what happens on each course. We're finding that it's tough to kind of, you know, work out the general numbers versus splits. But it's starting to get better now.
So for a handicap race, I'm gonna jump right in here and go off and run a show just a little bit here, because you bring up courses being different for, and that makes a lot of sense to me actually, that some courses would favor the A's and some wouldn't, or some courses would favor the D's and the C's and some wouldn't. I would think that if there's a place where there can be a huge kick and climb really fast, that maybe the A's and the B's might be able to catch up a little better than if it's a flatter and the group is just working together really well. Or am I wrong there? Like how is there one course that favors some of the groups or others?
Yeah, spot on. Look, we've actually had one race where we did it up Box Hill, and we found on the hills it's really tough to sort of maintain that group aspect. They really blow up on the hills, so we've tried to push more with flat races. So you know, the London Classic, Volcano Flat Loop, and the Richmond Flat Loops. So we found that's more of a where we can get, you know, groups are holding that more constant wattage. We're not getting those big bursts and blowing up groups. But yeah, certainly, look, we haven't been around long enough to get the data yet to work out what course does what. Still on a bit of a learning curve. We've only been around for, I think we're going on 2 months now. So learning.
Yeah, but it seems like it's going really well, and you got some numbers showing up for sure. And speaking of, you know, we wanted to bring you in because of the new race formats. And I understand, and we do have some comments coming in here, and I totally understand. ZHR's been running a handicap race for a while, and Andy Jenner's jumping in here as well as ODZ. That is true. There are a couple other race organizers out there. There's a really fun way to race though that's been doing these kind of things that you guys want to be watching out for out there with handicap races. I've done a couple others from other race organizers as well. I think that this is aimed at the Australian market for racers though. It seems like a little bit more. That seems to be really where you're aiming at for this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and probably a shout out to the local guys I ride with here. Is the Chop actually emanated from something we do as a club ride.
So is there a real life chop ride then?
We have a real life chop. So shout out to Ben Patterson, who's sorted all of that out with our club, although it's not a sanctioned club ride yet. But yeah, look, it's come from something that's real world. And that's kind of the unique idea is bringing a real world event maybe to Zwift. So yeah, it's something that we've brought in, and it's been a really interesting format. Targeted at our local crew, really.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I'm super excited to see how it grows and how it maybe encourages on, a lot of things in the community get attention, and then maybe encourage on new formats that we can add into the events modules and things. We do have a comment coming through here from Andy Jenner also about surely the size of fields needs more category. Time to dump the watts per kilogram. So we'll actually, and I'll see if you have any comments about that as well, or Simon as well. Size of fields needs more categories now. Time to dump the 4 watt per kilogram categories. And we'll go a little bit off topic here a little bit, but I've been of the opinion for a while that maybe a point system needs to be, implemented as well, or maybe another 5th category. It sounds like Andy's getting at. I don't know. What do you guys? What's your opinions there, Ben or Simon?
Tough from our point of view. I mean, tonight C grade won it.
Really?
They stayed away. They made the gap.
So they closed the gap down to the Ds. They closed it down to the Ds, and then actually were able to keep away from. Was it close, or is it sometimes like a blowout?
Look, it's hard. It really depends on the numbers that come in. We had a big C grade tonight. C grade was, the biggest grade out of all of them. And when we're noticing, and some of the things that I'm finding is that the bigger the grade, the stronger they go, irrelevant of what their average watts per kilos are.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
So I don't think you experienced that the first day you raced, Nathan.
First day I raced, there were 5 A's. There were 5 A's in the first day I raced, and 2 of them could go with the pace we were setting. And I was like, we were just working so hard. But the reality was, with the way that the current groups work together, and the drafting and everything, or what some people are, Ian Anderson, our racer focus, has kind of termed the blob at this point, about how the draft works in game. It gets kind of difficult to chase things down. So having more people in each group seems to really, and how well they're working together seems to really see whether or not the quality of the race is there too. So encouraging people to jump into the race then.
And there's a big thing on being truthful about their weight and their watts per kilos, going in the right category. We've found, I've been doing a lot more on time penalties as opposed to DQs. Trying to penalise then the time, splits that we've started with to regrade people. But that's kind of a tough thing to monitor at the moment. Getting people to go in the right grade, start with the right sort of watts per kilo, not just go for a smash fest to start and blow up the group. But yeah, look, it's work in progress. And I think, the only way we've sort of been able to make it a bit more of a level playing field is keep it as a flat course.
I think also, that's a great point on the flat course. I think that would probably be a great way to make sure everyone's working together well. I also think you do take a step back, though, from the controversy because of the commonality of working together. I think there's a little bit of a step back from competing against each other and more working together toward a common goal, and so I think if we can promote that in these kind of races, it might be a good format that removes a little bit of this WKG weight doping shaming thing going on that's happening out there. And I think it's a format that can do a great job with that. Really interesting comment coming from Aaron Dunn here, actually. 90% of state level races in Australia are normally handicap races like this. In real life handicap races, is that right?
Yeah, I know our club has one every month.
Wow, that's crazy. We don't have any of that here in the States at all. We have like nothing like that whatsoever. Keith Leonard also verifying that as well. There's a lot of handicap races actually in real life.
One of our
actually.
biggest
That's
club
pretty
races
cool.
is a handicap.
Wow, amazing. Simon, over in UK, similar.
I'm not aware of a lot of handicap races, but one thing you do see, and my club used to do this, and we still do it on an informal basis as a training technique, is you just do a cat and mouse. So if there's like 20 or 25, maybe 20 of us out for a ride, naturally there'll be some stronger riders, and naturally there'll be some weaker riders. And often at the end of a training ride, or sometimes at the end of a training ride, we'll say, okay, weaker riders set off for the last 20K to get home, and they're going to get a 3-minute lead, and do the stronger riders catch them. I mean, it's a fantastic way to end a training session because you're nicely warmed up, you're ready to go. You know it's going to be the last effort of the day. I mean, the great thing about Zwift, of course, is that you can see the gaps. You know who's chasing you. I mean, when you do it in real life, because strangely enough, on our club training rides, we don't have helicopter coverage or anything like that. You know, you don't know whether the guys are going to catch you, and you don't know until the end whether you've been caught or not. But I mean, it's called cat and mouse. I'm sure you know cat and mouse is kind of known throughout the whole cycling world. But I think there are handicap races over here, but certainly not to the extent that there are in Australia. I mean, that comment from Aaron's was incredibly interesting.
90% is huge. The other thing I could see then, if this is a popular format, we have group workout mode, group race mode, maybe some sort of I mean, we have it kind of already, but maybe now that we have first, second, third place all on the right-hand side of the screen now, perhaps we can have group gaps now being shown first, second, third. That would be a very cool innovation. That'd probably help you out a ton, Ben, for your end results for the groups as well. I mean, I saw your spreadsheets. You sent me like a whole Dropbox of like all these spreadsheets with race results and all this stuff. I was like, wow, this looks like a lot of work. Glad I'm not doing it. I was like,
yeah, well, you know, like I'm glad I'm not doing it. Actually, I got a shout out to Alistair, who does a lot of the IT stuff for me. He came along to a race and sent me a message, said, "Hey, I can pull the data for you," and he's been fantastic.
That's awesome. Right on.
So we just got to get on Zwift Power.
Yeah. There we go. Shout out to Zwift Power. Let's get him on Zwift Power. Sounds good to me. And lots of comments coming through about this, actually. This is interesting. This is a popular thing in Australia. All the Australians jumping in here now, letting us know that over in Scratch A, we'll chase and work together till they catch F grade. So it's like riding a break for the whole race. That's absolutely awesome. That sounds like a lot of suffering, but fun, like top 2 type fun. We also see from Keith Larry, normally prize money for the top 10 finishers in a handicap race as well for the fastest time finisher. Wow. Very cool. That's you guys are super innovative over there. Actually, it sounds like way more innovative than we are with our competitions here in the US. Come on now, pick it up, Americas. Let's go here. So Ben, when's the next race that we can be looking for the chop?
So Thursday morning our times, 6:10. Obviously there's the time splits. So you'll start after 6:10. It'll be 4 minutes from D to C, 3 minutes from from C to B, and then 2 minutes at the moment between B and A.
Okay, gotcha. Great on that's really helpful with the time gaps. Super, super helpful. How many laps are you usually looking at? What kind of distance or time are you looking for finishing times around this ones?
Look, we're trying to keep it around that hour mark. You know, I'm a father myself of 2, and it's that hour's kind of a good time slot to work in, especially in the evening races. People get home, they whack out a quick hour. Likewise in the morning before work. So it's kind of working in with those people's sort of, workout times.
Right
so
on.
about
Awesome.
37K, I think.
Okay. 36, 37K. Simon, did you have something, or it sounded like you were jumping in for a second?
No, I mean, just really to say congratulations and thank you to Ben and people like him who organise these handicap races, because I do think they take more organising than just the mass start races, and they take more admin and they take more working out. I mean, I know, and we should do a shout out here to Roberto Massimo Boldi, who's been running the Hare and Hounds and the ZHR for like ever and ever and ever. And I know
it was a
how much
very
work
early
they put
adoption, really early adoption of this, actually.
Yeah, and they put loads of work in, and I mean, I'm sure Ben will be thinking about this, but as you get more experience and you see who shows up and what the time gaps are, I know Roberto has been thinking about adjusting times between the groups to make it more competitive, and maybe, you know, you were talking about the blob, and if C group is really big, and we do know that the draft in Zwift does appear to favour large groups, then you might have to maybe adjust the time gap depending on the size of the C group, if you know what I mean.
Interesting.
But, I mean,
so like an auto adjustment depending on...
Yeah. So if there's like 100 riders in C, you calculate that they may go faster if like 80% of them stay together, so the time gap might be increased to the D riders.
We're always pushing the dev team. We're always like, hey, what's going on, dev team? Hey, what's going on, dev team? Oh,
I've got to say, I would not like to be doing that maths, but, you know, I'm sure there's some maths geniuses out there who could work it out.
James Hodges tuning in. Actually, the brains, I don't know, worker bee and some brains. I don't know. James Hodges runs Zwift Power alongside a couple of other awesome community members. Was listening in background, not following entirely. Adding chop to Zwift Power results now. Admin, please mention me. Look what we just got done. Look what we just got done. Ben looks really happy about that one. Look at him. He's like, yeah, there we go. We got it done. There we go. Sounds good.
Work.
Exciting. All right, cool. Ben, thanks so much for giving us your time and your work for the community in getting this off the ground with the chop. Again, the chop is taking place. Let's get this graphic up for you. On Mondays, 18:15 AEST and 6:10 a.m. AEST on Thursdays. So make sure to go check out the chop. Ben, thanks a lot for tuning in with us, man, and joining us on the broadcast. We'll hope to see you maybe in a month or two after we get some more races down and see how things are going. And also maybe sounds like you got some other things going on in real life that are going to start connecting with Zwift. So we look forward to all that.
Yeah, and look, thanks for your support too, Nathan. It's been great.
No problem at all. All right, so next up on the weekly wind-up today, we are going, last thing we're going to jump into, as we've been here for over an hour now. Man, and the first pilot, I didn't know how long-winded we could be, Simon. It's pretty amazing. But Zwift Academy is in its final 2 weeks. If you're unfamiliar with what Zwift Academy is, open to all ages and abilities of riders for the men's, but only the U23 can get into the Team Dimension Data finalists. For the U23, there will be 10 semifinalists and then 3 finalists that go to Cape Town, and then 1 winner of a Continental Team contract with them in 2018 season. On the women's side, then open to all, but open to all for the pro contract at the end for the 10 that try to make it there. Then the 3 who go to the Mallorca, Spain training camp, and then 1 that will be selected for the Canyon SRAM racing team. So that's what's going on with that. Final 2 weeks. Standouts and highlights are kind of what I want to talk about today about the Zwift Academy. Hopefully next week, I think we can get Tom Hargreaves on from Zwift's marketing to talk a little bit more in depth about the community's questions, maybe grill him a little bit about what's going on with Zwift Academy, but maybe I can grill Simon to give me some of his thoughts a little bit here on, you know, how from an outsider looking in, what's been happening with Zwift Academy, and how do we think it's been going?
Well, I mean, let's clear up the outsider looking in thing first.
Hold on. Are you registered? That's the first thing. Are you registered for Zwift Academy? Because on Zwiftcast, 2 Zwiftcasts ago, as of that point, you weren't riding Zwift Academy yet.
No, I was publicly shamed by Tom Hargreaves, actually, for not enrolling. And, you know, he was quite right. I really should have done, actually. But yeah, for reasons I didn't. So I have been an outsider looking in. And I guess it's 2 things that stand out for me. I mean, one is the kind of level of engagement on social medias and people speaking out about just how much they have enjoyed being a part of this, how much they've enjoyed the workouts, and that whole idea that underpinned this of it being a community builder for Zwift, I think has definitely delivered. So, I mean, I think that is a real positive. I think the second positive is just how few kind of glitches there have been, because technically this is hard. This is a really hard thing to do. And I guess, I'm not sure of the details that make it hard, other than the fact that I know that there are details that make it hard. I mean, managing all those people, managing all those workouts, all the uploads, the integration with today's plan, all that stuff, that is hard stuff. And I think that has gone exceptionally well. I've seen hardly any complaints at all. And where there has been a tiny glitch, I know a guy who works at Zwift called Dan Foster. Dan has been really active in social medias, kind of informing people when there might be a little bit of a problem and what's been done to fix it. But that has been tiny, considering the scale of the task. So those two things are super positive. There's one, for me, what is looking as though it might turn into a slight negative, but we might be being premature because there's a full week to go. But I'm kind of surprised at the low level of number of graduates as we speak at the moment. As we stand, I think it's around about 300 people have graduated already. Now, there is another full week to go. And we know, historically, human beings tend to leave things to the last minute. So, there could be thousands due to graduate this week. So I might be being premature, but I personally would be disappointed if graduates were in the hundreds rather than thousands.
Yeah, it was a 10,000 total, right? 10,000 total signed 10, up around?
Yeah, last time I checked, it was 8,000 men and 2,000 women. And I think that low hundreds figure was for the men. That was the last figure I saw. And like I say, I'm probably being hideously premature here, and people do leave things to the last minute. But it would be very nice to think that graduates were in the thousands, not in the hundreds. Not least because of the number of bikes that are going to go to Quebec. That is all of that is completely dependent on how many people graduate. So it would be very nice to see higher numbers than we're seeing at the moment. But there's a full week to go, and people do tend to leave things to the last minute. So
this is a great topic, actually, though, Simon. You can actually go to the website. Check this out. So you can go to the website and you can see how close people are, right? And I click through. Look at this. Look at how many are right at 93%. Look at how many are at 93% right now. Page after page after page after page of them. Right? Look at the progress. So I can change the progress bar, and 73%.
That's really cool.
I mean, look at that's pretty cool, actually. 3 days. It says 3 days. Wait, is that right? 3 days left.
3 days.
Oh my goodness! I thought it was the last 2 weeks. Oh my! What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? But
that's quite encouraging, Nathan. That is quite encouraging. It looks like there's a absolute ton of people on 95% and 90 and 85%. So that's what, I don't know, 2 or 3 more workouts maybe.
Yeah. There's a ton of them that are on that 93% mark. A few more workouts, maybe a race, maybe, and they did add, I think part of the struggle with Zwift Academy was they added some new things, because last year it was a longer period of time, and you had mainly just workouts to do. And so they added a few other things to do with it, it seemed like. And then in a little shorter period of time, and with all the new entrants, and then making sure it was matching up with everybody's schedules. But they have done a great job of putting a whole bunch more things on the schedule for people to do. More races that you can do, more group rides that you can jump into. So they did respond pretty quickly there. We are getting some comments coming through here, some great ones, actually. Let me see here. I do see you over at social media. I'm not missing you guys here. Kevin Ruff earlier on dynamic strength of field calculation and pens. That would be really cool, Kevin. I'm totally with you there. We actually have the llama here giving us a little bit of jumping into the broadcast here. Good to see you there, Shane. Quick work, ZP. We just need Mayfield listening in as well, and then we can have some quick work from him now as well. And we do have Marcus Neal. Good to see Marcus as always. And Marcus says, love the format, guys. Well done. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. All right, let me in so I can rip into this. ERG mode sprints in women's ZA. Oh, my goodness. We've got all kinds of stuff coming in here now. Llama, where are you? I invited Llama. Llama, where are you? Why are you not here?
He's causing trouble from 10,000 miles away. That's what he's doing.
Z Kiter is saying that the women's, oh, this is a nice, I like this comment. This is interesting. She says the girls have a higher percentage of grads, but I think we could get a lot to continue the program even after the deadline. P.S. I think is Germany now, not Mallorca, Spain for the, yep, it is. It is, I believe, changed up location. I did see that, and I can actually see that on the website now. I think it did get updated. Thank you a lot, Z. I appreciate the comment so much. If you'd like to interact with us at Z Community Live, we're almost done, so better get your interaction quick if you have any questions or comments to bring on in here. But in our show here, I definitely wanted to talk about who some of the highlights might be for the ZI. I'm always looking out, Simon, for who is at the front end of those race fields, because I do the KISS Europe race on Tuesday and on Thursday as a broadcaster, and I always see those ZA badges because it's a ZA race, verified race, that if you do this race, it counts toward the 2 races you have to do. And I always look on Zwift Power, does it say U23? And if they're at the front end of that field with the elites, and I'm like, ooh, if that trainer's good and the weight's good and everything, you know what I mean? If everything's right on there, you can hammer along with these boys at 5 watts plus per kilogram. This guy, you know, and I wonder if Zwift is thinking the same thing. You would think they would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, there must be some talent spotting going on, isn't there? I've not watched enough of them to spot any of the names that will make the final 10, but I guess they must be starting to emerge, or, you know, if only informally.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas about the selection process? I have no clue. Maybe we'll get Tom on next week and we can chat a little bit about how it works out. I think they have some sort of a board.
It would be interesting to know, wouldn't it? I mean, there must, I guess it's all done by the numbers, isn't it? I mean, they've got some pretty heavyweight coaching and data crunching expertise behind the academy. So I guess once this phase of the program is finished, there'll be like a load of heavyweight data crunching going on, and I don't know, maybe they'll have a short list of 20 and boil it down to 10. I don't know, I'm guessing now, but it's got to be data, hasn't it? It's got to be data driven.
I would think it'd be data driven for sure. I wonder how data driven they'll allow it to be if people have in real life results as well. You know what I mean? Like if it comes down to it and it's just a few and it's like, where do we go here? Do they have racing experience or not? You know what I mean? Like, and it's like the cut kind of a thing. I wonder if that'll come in a little bit too, but I would think mainly data driven though. I think that's a really, really good point. That's a really cool thing about the program, is that the ability to see with the men's and the women's program exactly who is just got the raw numbers. But then Shane always brought in this comment. He would always bring this comment that, because I never think that way, because I just train on Zwift so much and I'm a mountain biker. I'm like, whatever, ride your bike. I can ride my bike. You can ride your bike, right? But I just assume people can ride their bikes. And no, not everybody can ride their bike. Like, so they got awesome power, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I mean, and that was one of the key lessons of the Women's Academy last year, is that Leia, bless her, and kudos to her, because she's had such a tough baptism into pro cycling. She had the numbers, but she didn't have the race experience. And they made a point of saying that the selection procedure was going to be slightly more rounded this time. Would, in fact, I seem to recall they did say that real life experience would be taken into account.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So it would be a really cool to know from Tom, you know, how much weighting they're giving purely to data and how much weighting they're giving to other factors, which may well be race experience. Do you know what? It may well be availability as well. I mean, there's no point in choosing somebody to be a finalist if there is no prospect on God's green earth that they could abandon their life to become a pro bike racer. You know?
Well, we had that last year, right? With Rachel Elliott. Yep. You even had an interview with that whole situation where was great candidate for it and couldn't make it to the to it because of work. So the great point. We actually have a comment coming in here from Brett Corbet saying that Ollie Jones gonna have a good shot. All right, let's hear your predictions there. We're hearing from Vasilisco Florin. I'm going to say Florin. I think the Zwift Academy will have less graduates because the program was a bunch of races and workouts. Nothing too personal. Not making you feel really part of the training program. That's a great point, Florin. We were talking about that a little bit before the cast today. That perhaps there's a little bit more of a pull that training is hard, though. Like it's hard to get to work your life around this. That Zwift is about jumping on and going at any point. Like the reason that I could get my full on training programs done is because I would ride at 10 p.m. every night. And actually, I don't know if I'm going to graduate the Zwift Academy because 10 p.m. there's nothing going on in Zwift Academy for me. And so that's the only time I can really, I can try and squeeze something in during the day, whatever different times, but I got so much going on that I Zwift when it's convenient for me. And so maybe that's a little feedback, Simon, that like, how can we put as little friction as possible with the whole ideal of Zwift of like jump on and go cycling, the largest cycling fitness community in the world for everybody and every time. Maybe.
Well, I'm certain that this feedback will be being closely monitored and worked into any second edition of the Academy. When we had Tom on the Zwiftcast, I did make the point to him that the Academy, it has actually come quite early in the indoor cycling season. For a lot of people, the indoor cycling season doesn't really kick off until December, January. And he didn't rule out the possibility, maybe not of a full second scheme, but a second scheme that had elements, maybe not the pro contract element, that could run in the second half of the year. And if that happens, I'm sure they'd be taking some of the feedback that they've got on scheduling difficulties and commitment difficulties. But I did see one comment on social media that I did think was really interesting. And it was a bit brutal, but it did get to the heart of the matter. And that is, following a training program is hard. It requires commitment, it requires time, it requires dedication, and to a certain extent, it requires, a certain degree of freedom within your life to be able to fit the demands of it in around a life. And, that's why pro bike riders are different from you and me.
And that is a good point, though. On the end of that, though, it's hard, and it's a program for a lot that toward a pro contract, right? And so fitting your life around it would make sense, and that was the main focus last year. This year, it's been like fitness community and the pro contract. That's kind of like it's got this 2-tier thing, and so maybe the second time around, it'll have more of that fitness community, earn cool things in game. Enter into some of our partner stuff so you can win stuff, like that whole thing, more of the fitness community push rather than the program to get somebody toward a pro contract. And maybe those two end up being a little bit more separated. Yeah. Down the road. I don't know. That's just, I could see that happening maybe.
Yeah. Well, I could see that happening as well, Nathan, because, again, I watched very carefully the announcement of the Academy program for men, and there was a tiny little bit of difficulty around messaging because you were trying to explain two things here. You were trying to explain the pro contract element, but you were also saying to people, but you don't have to want to be a pro to take part in this. And sometimes, that was a relatively complex message to get across. And there was some evidence of people misunderstanding it at the beginning. It pretty quickly got ironed out. So it's a very interesting thought as to whether they would separate them and basically have two schemes. One that is an academy to win a pro contract and another that is just a fitness community. or a training community that's got, it's got trinkets and baubles and prizes and incentives, but not the pro contracts, which is, let's face it, going to appeal to a tiny number of participants. Not tiny number, but a smaller proportion of participants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think so. I think the message getting across there, I think it's definitely, you're right, it's gotten across at this point, but it took a little while for it to get across, I believe. Andy Jenner with some great feedback here that I would, I don't know if I completely agree with, maybe from the standpoint of time, right? So I look at the workout, I'm like, oh, it's an hour and a half. It's not an hour. He's saying that long warm and cool downs, most people have that hour time slot. So I think that might've been a little bit of some feedback there too. Thanks a lot for that comment there, Andy, as well. We also have Z.
I've seen that before.
You've seen that as well,
I've seen
Simon?
that before, Nathan. Yeah. Well, I've seen people saying, oh God, I've got to spend 15 minutes cooling down. I've done my workout. I don't need a 15-minute cool down, but if I don't do the cool down, I don't get the star, I don't complete the workout, and yada, yada, yada. So I've seen that comment before. I think it's a really good point, actually, that the workouts probably need to be designed for people who are essentially time crunched, because that's who Zwifters are.
Yep. Yeah. And I'd agree with that as well. And then Z Kryda, I love the all the comments coming from Z here. She's saying the workouts have a score and there is a PI number from the training plan, plus I guess points from races, but nobody knows if they are in 9th or 12th position. Oh, interesting. So she's talking about the selection process. It sounds like that the workout that there's like actually a score that you get from them. That is interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. We'll get more into that next week though, if we can get Tom on board. And Quentin is saying that I agree. Quentin LaFay, good to see you there. Vision Cycling Director Sportif. He's saying, I agree with Simon on the two sides of things. One other issue is that September to October is not the period anyone is at their top shape. It's the opposite of that. That's why I didn't do it. Mostly, Quentin says so. And I hear you're healing from an injury, Quentin. I hope that goes well with the healing up. But and let's see if there's anything else coming through here. And okay, Z, we'll get on that mention on there in just a moment here. But wrapping up on the Zwift Academy, we'll try and have Tom Hargreaves on next week. We hope to have him. And everybody, you got 3 or 4 days right around there. I think it's 3 days left to get in the rest of your workouts. Get them done. Let's get as many graduates out there as we possibly can for the Quebeca Foundation. Get some more bikes over to them. With the men's side and for the women's side as well. Let's get as many finishers as we possibly can. So what are the prizes? I don't even know. What are all the prizes for finishing? What do you get in game? You get a cool kit in game, right? And then on the women's side, there's not a charity on the women's side though, is there?
You're now asking me questions that I am hideously unprepared to answer.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so you're not the guy. You're not the guy. You're not the guy. You don't know what's going on here.
I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know that stuff.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. And so looking through here, it looks like next up, what is on for the week? That's what we're going to chat about for the rest here. So we've got race broadcasts. We talked about the group workouts with Coach Hendy. Make sure to be checking that out on Wednesdays. So coming up for the rest of the week on Zwift Community Live, it will be Tuesday and Thursday, Racer Focus with Ian Anderson. It will be the Kiss Europe races also on Tuesday and Thursday. The PM races, 8 p.m. BST or 2 p.m. CST, Central Standard Time here in the US of A. Wednesdays, we will have Workout Wednesday with Coach Hendy. You guys saw that earlier in the broadcast, but definitely want to check that out. Join us for the group workout. It should be used as an event module in game this time around. We're going to try and do it last week, but there were a couple of, it had to be patched. There was a new thing that got released. It had a couple of bugs to get worked out. It got patched. It sounds like we're going to be using that this week, so I'm super excited to use it for the first time. Simon, it sounds like you enjoyed it using the group workout last week. I believe you jumped into
very
that
much. Yeah. I mean, it worked. It just worked. It was
awesome.
Cool. Really cool.
Very, very cool. We do have one more comment coming through here. Very, very nice comment actually that fits because over the weekend we actually raised for another foundation, actually, the WBR Foundation. We raised $1,430 as a prelude to the WBR event that's coming up on December 2nd, actually. Z is saying, P.S. quick mention, December 2nd, Zwift and WBR with Trek offering. What? That's not right. Is that right? 500,000? I don't know if this is official or not. Z's just throwing something out there. But if that's true, see their website, worldbicyclerelief.org/en/event/where okay, yeah. So, but if that's right, we got to ride 1 million miles.
True, Nathan. Yeah, I think that is true.
Last year it was 250 and it was 45K. Last year was 250 and 45K. They want another 750,000 miles out of us, though, and then we get $500,000. That's huge. That's crazy.
That's kind of money that makes a big difference.
Huge difference. I mean, we raised, so over the weekend, me and another streamer, if you guys haven't checked him out, twitch.tv/sombrero. He plays a lot of PUBG, but he does do some Zwifting now, almost on a daily basis, actually, at this point. And me and him jumped in together to do the challenge with the Diamondback TT challenge. We did 112 miles. A few others joined in with it. It wasn't an in-game event or anything. It was just jump in, hang it out at the start-finish line, get going, and we live streamed it. And I did that as kind of a prelude to like, hey, here's how live streaming can increase the quality of your fundraising event. And Gaming for Good has been something that's been going on for a while. That's a tag, but it's also a channel that's on Twitch. And there's a lot of charity streaming that goes on in the gaming world. And it's kind of a place where the cycling and the gaming world can meet up a little bit, I see, because there's a lot of charity events that go around cycling. And so with the live streaming platform that's been mainly focused around gaming with Twitch and Mixer, I think that there's kind of a niche that we can hit up here with the cycling world to maybe start live streaming our events a little bit more. And so I think maybe check out, contact us and check out how we go about live streaming our charity events and maybe look forward. I'd love to make a huge splash on Twitch with as many live streams as we possibly can. We'll support you as much as we can to get you all the information you need to help you learn how to live stream for that December 2nd event. And let's try and get as many as we can out there to try and be live streaming for the WBR event. So, because I think we can make a huge splash with another community that might not know about what's going on with Zwift out there in the gaming world. That's raised millions and millions of dollars actually for some really cool charities actually through gaming. So I think it's a great way that we can kind of slot in together to use live streaming and gaming and Zwift for forces for good. I mean, Simon, pretty cool idea, eh?
Yeah, really good idea. I mean, it comes around every year now. I mean, it's part of the Zwift calendar, the WBR ride on December the 2nd. But it never loses that special thing of the community coming together and doing a really, really good thing for a really, really good charity that really, really makes a difference. I mean, we'll do more on this as the time grows nearer, I'm sure. But it's such a good event. I'm
looking forward to getting Katie on and a few other from WBR and some of the other organizers hopefully around it. So that'll be good. So it looks like most of the comments coming through we're getting. I mean, we're after an hour and a half here. Thanks everybody who sat through our long-windedness, and we had a great time here. Simon, thanks so much for joining in for our first weekly wind-up here. If you missed most of the broadcast, you can watch the VOD either on Twitch, YouTube, or on Mixer. It will be loaded up very shortly here. Simon, any idea on when the next Swiftcast is going to be happening?
Yes, I do.
Right along the same update. So there's an update coming.
I'm hesitating. I am hesitating here because the next Swiftcast is going to come pretty soon after the release of the new course extension, and the reason for that is that sometime this week I'm going to spend some time talking to the creative director at Zwift. Now, he's a really interesting guy because he is the guy who decides what this course extension looks like. You know, he's responsible for all the art, he's responsible for the concept behind it, and he's responsible for what we're going to be seeing new in game. And he's not been on the Zwiftcast before. Really interesting guy, a guy called Lloyd, who was also, of course, responsible ultimately for the redesign of the logo and the new look for Zwift as well. So I am going to be talking to him about that as well. So once all that material is in hand and once the course is released, then we will have a new episode of the Zwiftcast, probably with a little bit of time for the community to ride the new course, and we'll get a bit of feedback on it and a bit of time for you and me and Shane to spend some time in and say what we think about it as well. So a very long answer to a very short question, Nathan, is the next Zwiftcast will be sometime before the end of October, as long as the course comes before the end of October, which I'm confident that it will.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Well, we look forward to it. I look forward to chatting about all that stuff with him. And no problem, I see a lot of great comments coming through. No problem, everybody. We had a lot of fun chatting with you. Remember, we'll be here on Mondays. Every Monday that we possibly can, I will be here with the weekly wind-up. Unless I'm traveling to Australia because y'all want me to go to Australia for some reason. but Simon, thanks a lot for joining in with us. Yeah, it seems like you had a great time there.
Yeah, no, it was really good, really good. And that's the other thing I'm going to be doing is cutting all the video that I shot in Australia, and I'm going to do a special Australian edition of the Zwiftcast all on video, which should be good fun too.
Awesome. Look forward to it. Look forward to it, Simon. Simon, thanks so much for giving me 2 hours of your time to hang out here and chat all things Zwift. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good to see you, Nathan. See you soon.
You too, Simon. Take care. All right, and that was Simon Schofield from the Zwiftcast, my co-host on Zwift Community Live Weekly Wind-Up. And speaking of what's coming up next for me, obviously I got all the broadcasts this week and next week, but I will be at TwitchCon as well in Long Beach. If you are in the Long Beach area around TwitchCon, I will be there and you'll be able to hang out. I did send a tweet out actually to get tickets somewhere on my Twitter or whatever. You can go find that. And make sure to be here next week as well for the weekly wind-up. We love to do interaction with the community live. So make sure to be bringing your tweets at us with comments or questions or things that you would like us to cover. We will definitely be on the lookout for that. If you want things in the community highlighted here, you've got a cool story, you've got an inspirational story, you've got a story about how your family uses Zwift, you got a story about how you're racing or whatever it is, you got events that you're doing, or, you know, there's all kinds of things out in the community that aren't on our radar, that are on our radar that we're trying to get on in here. Make sure to contact us. We want to make sure to highlight everything that's happening in the Zwift community. Speaking of the new logo, here it is, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for Racer Focus with Ian Anderson, as well as the Kiss Europe race. As always, everybody, ride on.